Hi, everybody. This weekend brings the official kickoff of summer movie season, and with it, the arrival of what's come at the beginning of summer movie season a lot in the past decade and a half, a new Marvel movie. And this one is getting an unusual kind of attention for this franchise at this point. It's been just a few months since the truly savage reviews for Captain America: Brave New World, but now Thunderbolts is earning the kind of acclaim that we haven't seen for a Marvel movie in quite a while, and then also this new level of fan enthusiasm, with the studio still trying to regain its footing after the end of the Avengers saga back before the pandemic. It's been a while. I only partly understand the machinations of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I have been intrigued by Thunderbolts for a while because it's got these Oscar-nominated stars that it's promoting, and then this trailer that really was trying to make it look like an A24 movie, with A24's kind of tacit blessing, I think. But luckily, I have a friend who understands how Marvel works better than basically anybody. You have heard Dave Gonzales credited for this very theme music that you're hearing now. He's also my longtime co-host on my other podcast, Fighting in the War Room, and the co-author of the book, MCU: The Reign of Marvel Studios. Today, Dave is joining me to talk about what makes Thunderbolts so special for fans and critics, it seems, and why Marvel is still going for that kind of prestige despite everything else they've got going for them. After that, you will hear my conversation with Katey Bates and Jennie Snyder Urman, the star and creator of one of the most delightful network TV surprises in recent years, a new spin on Matlock, starring Katey Bates as a sweet-tempered elderly lawyer who is not exactly what she seems, and a really great performance from an Oscar winner to go with it. We've got a lot going on today. I'm Katey Rich, and this is the Prestige Junkie Podcast. Dave Gonzales, you are my source for all things Marvel and all things that make these Marvel movies feel fun with speculation and rumors and everything. And you got me excited about Thunderbolts because, I would not usually be talking about a Marvel movie on this podcast. I don't think I never saw the new Captain America, so I had nothing to add about it. But you had me intrigued for Thunderbolts, really because you said it was not the movie that it says it's going to be, which to me feels like such a bold move for Marvel to do. I feel like they've had this element of surprise in the past. But what you have been telling me, and again, we're recording this before it opens, so this is all just kind of based on you having seen the movie, but we don't totally know what's going to happen yet. But that basically Thunderbolts Asterisk was a fake title that will eventually be thrown over because at the end of this movie, it introduces the characters as an entirely different group. How did Marvel get to a point where they felt like they could take the swing?
This feels almost like what they had planned for. So this movie is the end of Phase 5. I know we don't really talk about phases anymore, but Marvel...
I cannot believe we're on Phase 5 already.
Marvel still thinks they're important and still plans around them.
I mean, everyone needs to have an ethos, I guess.
So this is sort of the end of Phase 5, and what we were asking through Phase 4 is basically who are the Avengers. And Captain America: Brave New World has a ending scene where Anthony Mackie's character is like, I'm going to form the new Avengers. And so there's a tease, but they aren't really there. And then at the conclusion of Thunderbolts, they are called the new Avengers. They don't want that title and maybe have earned that title through plot-based machinations, but they are the new Avengers, and the only title cards in the movie refer to them as the new Avengers. There is no Thunderbolts title card in this film.
Wait, where is there a title card that says the new Avengers?
At the very end of the movie. And
really?
Then after the post-credit scene, it says the new Avengers will return. So this movie's 100% marketed as to be the new Avengers. When it pops up on Disney Plus, I don't think it's going to be Thunderbolts Asterisk, which is this new thing that I am sort of guessing is going to happen, but is really smart marketing in terms of giving your movie sort of like artificial legs, which I think is like a week from now, they could rebrand this all as the new Avengers. They could put out the new posters. The Wheaties box with the new Avengers logo actually appears in the movie, so they could switch out that Wheaties poster really fast.
Oh, because they're in my local theater. There's like a big cardboard Wheaties box with them in it, and it says Thunderbolts Asterisk.
Mm-hmm. But it definitely says New Avengers when it appears in the movies as a Wheaties box. So
wow.
They have that. They have all the new logos, all these sort of things to roll out as part of the marketing. And the final Thunderbolts trailer I thought was really interesting, was edited in a way where it cuts to the title. It just says Marvel Studios Thunderbolts, and then it cuts to the asterisk as its own separate thing. And as a person who does titling on television professionally in another life, I'm like, that is the easiest title card to switch out just with New Avengers. And then it becomes a New Avengers trailer.
So why? Okay, so like Avengers is one of the most valuable names that exist in movies. Like the Avengers movies made a fortune. They are the pinnacle from which Marvel is still trying to get back. So what is their benefit in not using this name in the marketing? Why do the bait and switch?
I think because they would like to prove that they make their own fortunes, essentially. The only reason I would say that when a movie with Avengers in its title fails, that's when Marvel's done, is because of the marketing that Avengers comes with it.
Yep.
Avengers movie means $1 billion movie. So that's now the bar that you have to set if this movie's marketed as the Avengers. I imagine they have, some sort of back pocket PR stunt if it doesn't do well, where it's just like, oh, it was always Thunderbolts, and they could roll that back really quickly if they don't want to tarnish the brand.
Well, wait, we're talking about this on Wednesday before it opens. It looks like it's going to do well, though, right?
Oh, yeah, I think this is going to do pretty well. My bet was that Fantastic Four was going to outgross all the other MCU movies this year because Thunderbolts will bring the audience back and they'll show up in a couple of months for Fantastic Four. I
see. Okay. Kind of like the Iron Man, Incredible Hulk twofer back in 2008 in the Dark Ages.
These are all connected. The three movies, Captain America, Brave New World, I think through majority of reshoots, but all of these movies have been reworked to connect to each other, and all of them are leading to Doomsday.
Wait, Fantastic Four, Captain America, Brave New World,
and Thunderbolts.
So there's the marketing gamut. There's this thing that I think has got you really excited, and I think you're totally right that people like me who are like, I can't. This is gonna be Eternals all over again. I don't want to do a new Marvel thing. Here's new Avengers, and gets intrigued. And I do feel like I went and saw Sinners last night as we're recording this. It was a Tuesday night, and the theater was packed. Like I'm feeling very bullish on people's willingness to go see this stuff. But then there's the other side part of it is that Thunderbolts is getting good reviews, and people seem pleasantly surprised by it. The same people who have been not Marvel haters. Like I think almost every critic has gotten to the point where they think there can be good Marvel movies and bad ones. But Thunderbolts has this prestige to it. And the A24 trailer we can talk about, but just having seen the movie itself, like what makes this one good compared to a lot of the other kind of interchangeable stuff we've been seeing?
I think it's a real smart screenplay in that it knows at some point that we have been on the Marvel train for long enough that they say in the trailer, we have Florence Pugh's Yelena's character being like, what, we just all punch and shoot? But that sort of like grounded action is actually what we want in our action movies. I think part of the reason Captain America Brave New World kind of bombed is all the action that feels so superhero level. Like by the
CGI weightless junk kind of thing.
Yeah. By the time you have like a bright purple vibranium wing stabbing a bright orange Harrison Ford, you're like, what are we really doing here? Thunderbolts does have a character that is all powerful. It's basically Marvel's Superman that is able to stop bullets. He has a cape. They dye his hair blonde. It is like very superhero coded. But
Who plays this guy? This is unfamiliar to me.
This is Louis Pullman as Bob.
Oh. Didn't know he was in it. I'm telling you, you allow me to be so ignorant because you know these things and just let me ask you.
Well, let me tell you, Louis Pullman and Florence Pugh are the heart of this movie, and their capability of making you think that there are actual emotions between these two characters while all the other stuff's going on is the power of this movie. And so in the third act, when we're supposed to have this big superhero fight in downtown New York, which is what happens for these team movies, instead they sort of travel into the mind of a disturbed character and it becomes a character-based climax.
Okay. This is sounding like, what's the Doctor Strange movie where Scarlet Witch's brain is the villain? Like, this is sounding like that, which I didn't love.
I mean, that one still has so much more CGI goop. This is just like...
Okay.
These are people in real sets discussing emotions that are the end of a character arc that begins at the beginning of the movie. It's just it's traditional character stuff. And you'd be, in any other movie, I don't think it would be like a big surprise. Actually, like the whole trope of in genre movies, like trauma is the actual bad guy is kind of tired, but it is the performances of people like Louis Pullman and Florence Pugh that bring this through. And especially Julia Louis-Dreyfus as like sort of the villain.
That's because I feel like she's been on autopilot in so much of this Marvel stuff that she's done.
She is. This is the first time I think we really get to see her character as a character. And I think the most fun thing about it is she is just not afraid or deterred. You could be dangling her off the side of a building and she's more just like mad that you dared to touch her. And it's such an interesting villain sort of turn on it. So it has a lot going for it that is mostly like the bare minimum amount of superhero CGI goop in this film.
Well, because performances were such a big part of early Marvel, like Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, Chris Evans completely reinvents himself as Captain America, Tom Hiddleston as Loki and villains. Like, there were all these really grabby performances, and I don't know what it was that made the performances kind of fade to the background, but it does seem very encouraging that someone within Marvel said, no, actually, like, get these great actors and let them cook, and that could be a good special effect in itself.
And it's not, they're cooking with one hand tied behind their back. Like, Florence Pugh and David Harbour have to have, like, the emotional crux monologue of this movie in, like, the
thick
moose
Russian
and
accents.
squirrel Russian accents. And it works because these two are committed to it. And even when things should feel silly, Florence Pugh is able to pout me right back into reality. It's pretty great.
Yeah, she's really good. Okay, so does it feel like an A24 movie, as that one trailer really wanted us to believe?
It has a lot of stuff that would feel A24-ish. I could definitely tell the Sunlux score, which is part of the thing
they
of it.
did Everything Everywhere All at Once's score, yeah.
They did. The director, Jake Shearer, is from Beef, and he has, I think, a lot of very similar ideas about how to put a movie together and edit a movie that makes it feel grounded. A lot of the action in this is more about locked off pans or very slow dollies while you move from fight piece to fight piece. This is not a sort of like edited mismatch of action that we sometimes see in these sort of action movies. I don't want to call out Havoc, but I want to call out Havoc. It is not... They're not shaking the camera artificially to make you feel like there is action happening, which I think is really important. Angela Catanzaro, I believe, is the name of the editor, who has actually done a really good job here in knowing when to find the thing that we should be looking at in certain conversations. I had a real fun time, as I always do when I see a Marvel movie. I go back and I watch all the trailers, because Marvel does this thing where they put things in the trailer that are never going to be in the movie.
And don't they like CGI out characters who then will be in the movie?
Yes, or in this case, CGI in characters who are not in the movie for as long as the trailers have them believe.
Honestly, I kind of support it. I feel like trailers are allowed to play fast and loose with the rules. Maybe this is a whole other conversation, but I kind of like the idea of keeping people guessing.
Well, it's another switch for Thunderbolts in that every character that is in Thunderbolts from the Marvel Cinematic Universe is in the trailer. There aren't like surprise cameos like there would be in other movies. But I do think one of the characters that's in the trailer basically is a cameo that they could have hid, but have decided not to and made them part of the marketing.
Okay.
So that's an interesting way forward. But if I went back, look at the trailers, and there's a whole bunch of lines where we see the line being said from like one angle, but I know in the movie we're on something else. And I think what that really is that's a real trust on the editing following the flow of the story, which is something that some Marvel movies do better than others. I believe it's Dan Leventhal, who was the editor of Iron Man, who Jon Favreau credits with being part of making the Marvel formula, which is basically keeping the plot moving along, but also being able to stop for jokes in certain points. And I feel like Thunderbolts is a evolution of that, in that it really is trying to push this story forward in a way of editing that I think is super helpful. There are Marvel movies that have a direct vision from the start and people are able to follow it. And there are Marvel movies that are sort of put together because the director is taken off the program and it becomes a company project. Thunderbolts is reading a lot more like a very specific mandate that they had to do, which is introduce this new team. And they do it sort of by riffing on the things that Marvel made popular in the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy and their other teams.
And they make it fun. Which is kind of all you want.
Yeah. And I think really it's the make it fun and the performances that are keeping this from being an Eternals, which is another Marvel team that they tried to do, but they tried to do it off formula. They're like, what if these people are serious instead of funny? And it turns out that doesn't work. But Thunderbolts, none of them are that serious, and I think it's all the better for it.
Well, I feel like Eternals is really going to live on forever as this model of when it doesn't work for Marvel to do what it did successfully for a while, being like, hey, you made an exciting movie, come make a movie for us, like Ryan Coogler being the best example of it, I think. And Jake Shearer, who's directing Thunderbolts, is not a Clojah level auteur, but he did make Beef. Like, he's got these credentials coming to him. And I was looking at Matt Shackman, who's the director of Fantastic Four, and he's also made a lot of really good television, but hasn't like made a film before. So is this kind of the beginning of Marvel calibrating that a little bit bit, saying like, we can bring in directors who have a vision. They don't just have to be like a company guy like the Russos were for such a long time, but not someone who's so established in their career that they're going to like butt up against the machinery of Marvel. Like, is this the happy medium to do that?
Absolutely. What you want is people like the Russos who came out of television because they're used to the process of an ongoing conversation about what the plot is, because every episode can be different. They work with Dan Harmon, so they're used to things being figured out at like the last second and having to like jam with it. I think it's a lot better to give TV directors an opportunity to make a name for themselves in this space, which is essentially what they did with the Russos. The Russos made Endgame, then they get Agbo, then they get to do whatever they want. That's a position that I think is better than finding somebody. I mean, I would love Chloe Zhao to make a Eternals 2 if she wants to do it. I think it looks...
I get the feeling she doesn't. That's not the vibe that I've gotten from anyone on that. Well, you would know better than me.
Didn't she jump to Buffy the Vampire Slayer? So
I guess that's true.
She's genre at heart. And
that's true.
She made it look good, and I don't have that many problems with Eternals. I think it came out at a weird time where we were expecting different things from Marvel than what the Eternals was putting up. But I do think it's better now, and I think they tried this a little bit in Phase 4 and 5, but they were just bringing on the Rick and Morty writers. They were like, maybe...
On which projects? Which ones were you talking about?
Ant-Man the Wasp, Quantumania, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness... Anyway, they brought in a whole bunch of old writers from Rick and Morty to sort of like do passes on their scripts. Basically, I think to massage in the multiverse, because they know Rick and Morty was doing a whole bunch of multiverse thinking. Why not bring in these guys who can do it?
Sure.
But that didn't really work out for them the way that they wanted to. It became super convoluted. And so now I think they're going a little bit more back to, visualists and trying to bring people from television and giving them just a huge canvas. And on one hand, if you could do what they're doing with Thunderbolts and execute a very interesting vision, but do it in a way where, have some good stunts on practical sets and the movie does good, great. If not, they could Nia DaCosta elbow you out of your own project because who are you? You're just a television director. So I think it's a good place for Marvel to be, and a good place for a director to sort of take things by the reins if that's how they so choose to work it.
And it does seem like people who have that genre in their heart, like you're talking about, it's still a job worth taking. Like maybe it doesn't work out exactly the way it would if you were handling your own project, but it's a step up that, obviously anybody wants a job on some.
Well, and if you make $1 billion from Marvel, you get an Agbo. Like that's like every time I see a movie and I see the Agbo thing in front of it, like Legend of Ochi I saw, and that's Agbo, and I'm like, well, you know what? If Endgame and Infinity War made billions of dollars and we get a Legend of Ochi, like I'll take a gray man doing nothing. Yeah,
or you get to get the rights to your movie back in 25 years after you make it. So
absolutely, yeah. Ryan Coogler loves the genre, and all of his interviews, he's like, he's going to do Black Panther 3. Like, there's a world where you could be a creative and Marvel brings out the best in you. That's so rare. We saw it with the Russos. We saw it obviously with James Gunn, who moved on to better things, and we're seeing it with Ryan Coogler. They just were very tentative about it because they tried it with Joss Whedon, and Joss Whedon took way more power than they thought he was going to. And they spent like several years trying to undo the Joss Whedon effect in order to build like this new version of Marvel. But the idea that Marvel like isn't nice to its directors is at this point like 15 years old. So I feel like even with something like Nia DaCosta getting elbowed out of Marvels in the post-production, that was so she could go do the movie she wanted to do. If she was like, Marvel's my baby, I think we would have seen a much bigger fight out of it. Disney wants to make money, and they don't have in-house directors. They got to hire out. So this is how it's going to work.
You mentioned James Gunn, and I wanted to get to Superman as well as Fantastic Four as we wrap this up. You were saying that you feel like Fantastic Four could really ride the coattails of Thunderbolts and become like even bigger and a big success. How are you feeling about Superman? Do you think we're going to get 3 superhero hits this summer?
I mean, I am hoping Superman does well. As with all James Gunn projects at the trailer phase, worried about the tone. I think James Gunn is the type of person who, even as far back as like Slither, is making a movie that has so many tones in it that you kind of have to take the movie at face value. I don't think like James Gunn trailers had good needle drops, but that's a trailer trick. Lots of trailers have good needle drops.
Sure.
It's hard to edit around his particular type of comedy. So very specifically what I've seen of Superman, there's just like a bruised and broken Superman and the dog comes and jumps on his broken ribs. And I'm like, okay, what's the tone of this movie? Am I on the dog side? Am I on Superman's side?
Seeing that before the Minecraft movie trailer was really wild. I was like, God, like Superman's spitting blood. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, like, so they're working it out of like the grimdark Zack Snyder version, which I did think was trash. So we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
But I am a little wary about it because I don't think Superman is an inherently cinematic character. What it's making...
That feels like a hot take.
Well, he needs to be an ideal. And I think a lot of the DC heroes and a lot of comic book heroes in general were created when we need bastion. We need a fill-in for an idea. We need the perfect man that we could root behind. We can't bind the perfect man to a state or anything like that because that ages poorly through time. So let's make him from Krypton. And then we have a whole bunch of movie history and comic book history that piles up on top of it, where everybody's trying to take this idea made by like 2 Holocaust survivors about what if there was like just somebody who did good no matter what. And we keep complicating it. So I think James Gunn has the right idea in that he's overstuffing his world with other things so that Superman isn't going to really have that many hard decisions to make and can be the paragon of good. Is that the type of movie that people want to see in the middle of this summer? Maybe.
I mean, Captain America pulled it off. I know it's been a while, but like having a hero who is kind of unambiguously good and righteous, like can work.
Yeah. And the reason that worked is they froze him for Watergate. But yes, Superman, I think, is also walking into a world where that movie has to build an entire story world for the ongoing DC cinematic universe. That movie has like, I don't know, at least 6 characters that we're going to have to keep track of. So I think they've...
Oh, now you're making me feel tired.
Well, I mean, they've chalked it full enough that they could do enough interesting Superman things to make an interesting movie.
On. Are there other ongoing DC superhero movies that we're going to get more of? I thought we were kind of clearing the decks with Superman.
Batman is separate.
Oh, right. Robert Pattinson's going to do another Batman.
Yeah, that's a separate one.
Okay.
And as far as I know, that is the only one that has been separate. There's an idea that there's a James Mangold Swamp Thing out there, and I don't know how that...
No, I'm shutting it down.
There's a James Mangold everything out there. There's a James Mangold Star Wars out there, apparently, so who knows?
If you had asked me to put money on whether Swamp Thing was a DC character, I probably would have said no. So that's the hill they got to climb up to get that to work here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see Thunderbolts, but it was even more excited for you to explain it to me. And maybe we'll just do a check-in at the end of the summer and see how all this worked out. I like your optimism. I feel like it's gonna serve us all.
I like that you see that's optimism. I have a question for you, Katey.
Okay.
How much are we mad that Thunderbolts is sort of an IMAX movie because that's how you make more money and it's booting sinners out of the IMAX theaters after 2 weeks?
I did not even think about that. I was thinking about Mission Impossible kicking it off the IMAX screens.
So they switched Sinners and Mickey 17. Warner Brothers says because they needed more like film processing time to actually make the Prince of Sinners.
Shot it on Kodak, yeah.
Do you think that's true? Or do you think they saw Mickey 17 and they're like, we're going to put this on Easter weekend?
I have no idea. I think that is probably correct. I think they probably realized Sinners had a better like hook to it. Although I really like Mickey 17. I feel like I'm emerging as a great defender of it. But like, I think the IMAX loss is huge, obviously, but Sinners is going to keep doing really, really well. I wonder if on like the screens that are showing it in 70, if they're also going to kick it out for Thunderbolts, or if maybe they'll get to keep it around a little bit longer. It's not showing on 70 anywhere near me or you, I don't think. I mean, I saw it on IMAX, and I was really glad I got to, but like, opening at Easter weekend was the right move, right? Like, don't you think it kind of panned out for the best?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we had, like 2 months of IMAX Sinners instead of 2 weeks of IMAX Sinners, if ultimately that would have been better.
I'm going to bet you this right now. Sometime in the fall, as part of its like circling back around for its Oscar campaign, Sinners is going to come back on IMAX. Whatever window is open for it to do a return, it will absolutely do that.
That is going to be a very narrow window because of how the fall. We have an Avatar coming out this.
Okay, fine, January.
Okay. Maybe we
no,
we
you're
still
right.
have an Avatar.
Avatar does get in the way. But no, I mean, like, think about the Interstellar, like, IMAX re-release they just did. Like, these movies that play on IMAX will play forever forever. And again, in 25 years, it'll be all of Ryan Coogler's money. So more reason to keep it going.
Yeah, I'm excited, but I'm also sad that in the IMAX format wars, we're going to boot out something that is really thoughtful about it, like Sinners, to something
It's
that
true.
is just like watch Florence Pugh jump off a high building, which like I get, but that's why I go to the Mission Impossibles. I don't
Yep.
need that in my Marvel movies.
Yeah, well, I guess I got 2 IMAX screenings to get to in the next month with Thunderbolts and Mission Impossible, so I'll be ready. Thank you, Dave. We'll talk more Marvel again very soon, I promise.
Great to be here.
We're going to take a quick break, and then I'll be back with my conversation with Katey Bates and Jennie Snyder Urman. So now let's hear my conversation with Jennie Snyder Urman, the creator of the smash hit CBS series Matlock, and Katey Bates, the Oscar-winning star and Matlock herself. It's a reboot of the Andy Griffith Lawyer series, and it doesn't exactly sound like a guarantee for success in this modern, splintered TV age. And then especially when you've got a creator like Urman, who was determined to cast an older actress in that title role. But that was the determination that helped pull Katey Bates away from the brink of retirement and then become the leader of a show that she tells me is her favorite project she's ever worked on, even though she knows she's not supposed to play favorites. I talked to Urman and Bates about their working relationship, with Jennie as the leader of the writer's room and Katey as her equivalent on the set. And we also talked about the bold swings that the show takes in the topics it addresses on a weekly basis, and then also the really big twist at the end of the pilot episode. You probably heard about it. Bates's character, Maddie Matlock, shows up at this high-powered law firm pretending to be this sweet grandmotherly lawyer getting back into the workforce. But at the end, it turns out she's actually a wealthy woman trying to infiltrate the law firm and expose how they helped a pharmaceutical company cover up their role in the opioid epidemic. There is a lot going on. The twist makes Matlock both an enjoyable case of the week legal drama. You get to see a lot of great courtroom speeches, but then this broader, more complex story. And Katey Bates told me that it is really challenging her as an actress, even this far into her career. You can hear it all in my delightful conversation with the creator and star of Matlock, Jennie Snyder Urman, and Katey Bates. So, Katey and Jennie, I've read a lot of the interviews you guys have done separately. And I've seen you guys talk about each other and sing each other's praises, but I don't know if I've heard both of you talk to each other about what those early conversations were like, and Jennie, how you kind of brought Katey into your world and brought her on board. So what can you guys tell me about your first meeting and when this all began?
I mean, it was a magical meeting for me because I was very, very nervous. And Katey really put me at ease right away and told me that she really loved the script and wanted to talk about the character. And that was just a huge gift for me because I could relax, that I could talk about. Couldn't do any of the other things, but I really was passionate about the script and the project and talking character. And it was really special to start that way because we started talking about the work. And, I think we just haven't stopped since then.
Yeah, for me also, I loved talking with Jennie. We got right in talking about the work. As she said, it's always been about the work. I've been in the business for 50 years now. And I've never had a creator, producer, anyone say to me, what don't you like about working? I'd never had anybody ask me that question. So I felt very free to say to her, don't abandon me. Stay with me. Let's stay connected on the work. Let's stay connected with the character and what's happening to her. And that's how it's been all along. And that's why I think this has been a magical experience. And the magic started that day and it's never stopped. And that is entirely due to the kind of woman that Jennie is, how inclusive she is to everyone that she works with on the set. And I'm sure that's the way she works with her writers. I would love to get into that room and be a fly on the wall.
Oh, you have to come.
Oh, no, I think I would intimidate everybody. Or I would be, I don't know. You'd have to put some masking tape over my mouth. Anyway, I just love the story. I love the characters. And like Jennie said, I also then felt comfortable with her. As I said, no one's ever asked me that question. And I just thought, wow, I knew right away I wanted to work with Jennie. And of course, I had read the script and I was just knocked out by the twist at the end. So, it was all systems go.
So, Jennie, what made you ask that question that apparently nobody ever thinks to ask?
Well, just because if we're going to be doing this together, we're partners, right? And I'm leading that writer's room and Katey is leading the set. And like, we have to be in constant conversations. So I just wanted to know, frankly, what worked for her well in the past and what didn't so that I could adjust. If you like this, if you like to get the scripts I was really asking like technically just so that I could do this job well, because that partnership is just everything. And when she said, don't leave me, I understood exactly what she meant, because there's the writer's room and then there's the set. And you just, as you start to get more and more busy, there start to be more and more layers between you and the person that you're like constantly should be communicating with. And so I really appreciated that. And I just like our relationship is is magical to me. And is, I know that Katey has great taste, of course, but I also I love her notes on the script. I love it when she's telling me, I don't understand why I'm doing this. And we have to get in and make it finer and more precise and better. And I love that she treats the work as seriously as I do, because I get quite obsessed. We're putting so much into it. I want it just to be as good as it can. And we both have that energy. So we just like talking and improving and fine-tuning together.
The other thing I'd like to add to that, the process as it went on throughout the season, you read a script with your lines and then there's, descriptions about what happens. But Jennie has provided me and others, I'm sure, what are called tone notes that tell you exactly what's going on in each character in a deeper way that has its roots in the arc of the whole season. And that I've never had before. And that's tremendously important when you're dealing with two different characters, two sides of the same woman, and where I am in one scene and where I am in another scene, and how that progresses for each one so I can keep everything straight.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Katey, how is your approach to that with the scripts? You're getting them on a weekly basis. Has that always been your process of giving notes, taking notes for yourself, not necessarily always having someone like Jennie who's going to receive them? But how is your process for handling the scripts when you first get them worked on this show?
Yes, I really like to dive deep into the character, and I have an app. It's called Scriptation, and it's really been a tremendous help to me because I can make specific notes on the text and annotate it in a way that's easy for me to read and to remember what my initial feelings were. I think it's wonderful to read it the first time and say, oh, this, and this, and then go back and read it again. And the script, anything you read, will reveal itself to you in a different way. And then you read it again and you keep making notes. And even if I'm learning lines or whatever, things will occur to me and I'll write them in because I want to be sure and do that when we're shooting because we're moving so fast. So that's how I like to work. And at night, or whenever it is that I'm working on lines, I was trained years ago to just learn everything by rote with no emotional attached to those lines or those words. And that you can know them like the back of your hand so that you can really focus on the other actor. Because you can only think about one thing at a time. Y'all think you can think about 5 things at a time. But you're wrong. I'm telling you, you're wrong. So that's what I have to do. I have to learn it so well that I can focus on the person I'm working with.
Yeah. So there's a really stand-up moment in episode 3, I think, and when Maddie's in the courtroom and kind of recognizing that attitudes about what is not okay in the workplace has changed and kind of recognizing a moment to change. And it was striking not just for the character of Maddie, but what you can do on television, especially a television show that's for this many people and being watched by so many people. So Jennie, I guess to start with you, did you feel like this was an opportunity when this show had become a hit? I don't know if it had by the time you wrote that, but knowing that you could push that envelope, that you could talk about things in the format of this show that maybe you wouldn't have been able to talk about or address in another show that you've made.
That's a great question. I think right away we were going to be talking about important things and having lightness and having reveals because the show is sort of built on that, and it's built on this very deep feeling about grief and drug addiction and Maddie and Olympia talk about race in that first episode. I always wanted to use this time to entertain and to say things. I think we hadn't aired anything until we were shooting episode 17 when we started airing. So we were in a bubble for a long time, which, we didn't know how we would be received. We just knew how we felt and how they, the studio and network liked the pilot. But that episode was really special because it was the first episode that I realized in the breaking of it with the writers, how Maddie was going to be learning and changing as well. So that she's, she came in for one reason, but she's not going to understand the things that she's going to realize about herself, and seeing her look at those, how she was in the workplace and look at what it is now and realize that she's going to come in with some preconceived notions and she's going to move and shift a little bit. It's just opened up, I think, a beautiful avenue of exploration for the character and for us as writers too, to talk through generations and how we learn, from looking up, and we learn from looking down, those that are older than us and those that are younger than us, and that we can learn, if we can keep learning in that loop, then we're going to be golden.
Yeah. Yeah, Katey, I think you've said in other interviews that this is a character that you feel like can help you accomplish things in acting that maybe you've never gotten the chance to do before, or do it in a different way than you have before. What is it about this character that gives you so much opportunity to do so many different things?
Well, it starts from the way Jennie's written her. She talks about avenues, and I love hearing that word because there's no restriction on where the character can go. As to follow on to what you were just saying, Jennie, she finds herself in a world where she has planned things out to the last minute, and it's taken her and Alfie 2 years to really put this together and think it all through. And then from the very beginning in the pilot, when they're on the crying porch together with David and Leah, she realizes that, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do this. I'm dealing with real people here. And I know what you just asked me was, what is it about this character, though, playing the character specifically? She just fit like a glove. I don't know any other way to say it. My Southern roots that are there, the relationships with the characters, having the opportunity to play the same character over a long period of time. I don't know how to. I guess it's a heart thing. It's an inside thing. It's a soul thing. And I don't know if I can put it in words better than that. It calls upon me to go back in my life and remember moments, remember people. And it just opened up a whole Pandora's box of things that I can use now at 77, soon to be 77, that I didn't know about my work when I began 50 years ago. And the things that I've learned over 50 years, I can use all of those things. And I know there are 200 people that make this show happen, but I feel like it's my show. I feel responsible, and I feel proud, and I feel, well, I guess I've said it the best way I can. It's not just the work. It is the work. I mean, when we got the first, inkling of how much people loved the show, we were all so incredibly proud. And to hear people tell us how much they love it and how they're touched by it, or that they watch it. Well, every generation in a household will sit and watch the show together. All of that feeds everything about the way I feel about Matlock and being Matlock and the honor of it, and all of it. It's just a huge gift at the end of my career.
No. So you've both made, worked on a lot of shows, done a lot of different things. And Jennie, you've worked on shows that were really big hits and then shows that aren't big hits. And there's kind of this gamble aspect to deciding to take something on. When you go and create another show, how do you step up to the plate again and say, it didn't work last time, maybe it'll work this time? What kind of courage does that take to push forward? Or is there just no choice? You have to keep going because it's what you do.
You have to forget all of that right away and just work, is what I've learned, because sometimes it's going to work and sometimes it's not. And all I could do is focus on the work, because if it if I start thinking outward, it gets too big for me and there's too many things I can't control. The only thing I can do is work as hard as I can and try to make something as good as I could possibly make it. And then after that, it's like, will people watch it? Will it be received? All of that is outside of our hands. So it's just like when people were liking this, as Katey said, it's just like such a gift, because it felt special to us. And then, you're just opening it up. But I can't think about that because I get as paralyzed with, will they like it? Or if they like it too much, will I be able to live up to that next time? I have to then, if people like it, then you don't want to drop the ball. So all of those pressures, I just keep in my head and I just try to focus on like the page, the character, the work, the relationships, pushing them forward. Does it feel truthful? What's interesting to reveal? How am I going to make this next episode interesting enough for Kathy Bates? Like, I got this amazing woman at the center and I want to keep giving her new things to play and new avenues to explore and get to the end of a problem and see new problems that come of it. Like, that's where I live.
Yeah.
It's about the work. I just wanted to insert something there. When I was talking in a minute ago about us being so proud of that first episode, how it was received, we gave ourselves a few minutes of just really being excited. And then we went back into the set and Kat Coiro, who is our wonderful director, she's directed so many of the episodes, she sat down and she said, okay, back to the work.
Yes.
It is really about the work. And when you see fantastic painters, pianists, cellists, I don't know, artists like Anthony Hopkins. So it's all about the work. It's all about what we're trying to be the best we can be at. And some days we succeed and some days we don't. But we have to keep focusing on the work because that's it.
Well, and Katey, you had talked about how before this came to you that you felt like retirement might be an option, that you might be done doing the work at a certain point. And do you think that was ever really true, or would you have always wanted to find a way to keep doing it? It seems like acting draws you back one way or another. And just this one happened to be the greatest role you could get.
Yes, I really was considering it, at least going into semi-retirement. And I think part of that is due to the fact that roles for older women are not written, and certainly not in this splendid way. And I never expected to receive a role like this at my age. And talking about it with another producer, Eric Christian Olsen, I'm sure people wanted to have it be, Matlock's great granddaughter, in her 30s. That's much easier to monetize. But they really fought to have an older woman in the story, and that was, to me, was the magic key in terms of telling the story and having all of those layers with young people and working through all those generations. For me, the roles I was getting offered were smaller and smaller, and they were often in smaller movies that people were not seeing. And so there was a frustration with that. And I thought, well, maybe I need to start thinking about moving on in my life and going on to, do I move, house? Do I move country? What do I want to do next that has to do with my life instead of my work? But as you say, the work keeps pulling me back. And in a way, that's what happened when I first started out. I kept thinking, oh, is there anything really, does this mean anything? So I'd kind of float away, but then a job would come back and grab me in. So anyway.
Yeah. All right, Jennie, did they want it to be Matlock's great-great-granddaughter? Was that a version that someone tried to get you to make?
Not to come to me, but Eric Olsen had the, rights to a Matlock reboot before I entered the scene. So all of those, discussions might have been, I'm sure were prior to me. And then he had it. And then when I called to see and they said, would you write it? When I took a walk, I always knew it was going to be an older woman, I'm going to be 50. I'm moving into I feel smarter, more valuable and all of those things, but I'm not looked at that way as I move through life. And so that's what I'm looking at. And that's what I'm fighting for space also for myself as I age, I think it's because society so often sees older men in positions of authority where you're in a country where we've only had older men as presidents, they grow in esteem and estimation, and we don't have those models for women. So like, I want them on screen. I want to see how capable we are, how our knowledge has added up to so much. And I love the way that Maddie just weaponizes that cultural blind spot and can continually surprise people. You know, that's part of the heart of the show.
Yeah. I know the twist at the end of the pilot is the big grabby part, but I just swear the way that she uses her invisibility to get away with that is really inspiring really early on. It kind of makes you feel like you could sneak into a law office, which I promise I wouldn't really do, but it really is a great moment. Katey, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned Maddie's Southern roots earlier, and I'm from South Carolina, and I also have a Southern accent that can kind of come and go depending on when it's useful, which I feel like is what Maddie does. Like the accent is there when it makes her seem less threatening and then goes away. Is that something you brought to it? Did that get written in there? How did that become part of the character?
Well, we talked about that a little bit, and I think she still has a soft accent when she's at home, and it's more accentuated when it's at work. Even in my script, I have accent, no accent, accent. So I try to really focus on, but I also think that she puts it on, in the scene with the priest in the finale or in the room. I think that was the one before that. She puts on that accent with him to draw him in and make him think she's a bumpkin. Mm-hmm. So she uses that and goes a little deeper than she has to. And, or if she's feeling insecure as Maddie at the office. So, I try to manage my Southern accent as best I can. I don't know. Sometimes I think I get tripped up.
I've not seen it.
Do you ever use your own in real life to try to get a favor out of somebody if it makes you seem nicer? Because I definitely do.
No, but my older sister does.
I'm glad she has the power.
She lives in Florida, and she did a lot of community theater down in Florida and won a lot of awards. So she just, when she goes to the store, she puts it on with people and just, anyway.
It works. I'm here to say it works.
I love that.
I know that we're not going to get, giveaways about season 2 or anything, but given that you were writing episode 17 when the show premiered, now you can go back to it knowing that you have this audience and what you can do. Do you feel emboldened? Are there things that you feel like you can push a little bit or get away with, or just new directions to take the characters now that you know everybody's with you?
I don't feel emboldened because I think we always felt sort of bold.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to stay true to the characters, push us into new areas so that I want, new dynamics so that things don't feel repetitive. That's the pressure. I want the story to move forward in organic ways and put the characters into new situations. So I'm like really excited about that. I'm excited about pairing different people together that you wouldn't expect. There's just an Edwin and Olympia scene early on that I'm very excited about, and I'm not going to say more. And I'm just excited to where we take the story, to keep pushing and being like, what's true to the character? How is the character feeling? Now she's under these pressures. What does that do to her? Just being really precise in all of the small emotional calibrations. That's where I think then we get to get this deep emotional drama, this fun comedy, and also, every new situation will change the character. And so she gets to keep growing and evolving. And Kathy's read the season pitch, so she knows where we're going. She is the person I share it with. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Katey, knowing you know more than I do, but what are you hoping for that's not any spoilers?
Oh, everything. I keep coming back to the work. I'm just excited to get back to work and to go down these different avenues. And the other word that we use a lot with Jennie is she just creates a Rubik's Cube and everything fitting together. A lot of times we're surprised because we see the arc, or I see the arc. I'm sure she's shown it to others, but
just you.
I see the arc and I think I can't wait to see how the episodes unfold, because as Jennie said, it's really a spine, or as I call it, an armature, where then the flesh comes on it, is built on it. And that's what I'm excited about, is how the characters speak to one another. How are the actors going to investigate each script? So I hate to keep coming back to it, but it's the work. I'm excited to investigate all of it, to play it. in terms of spoilers, I kind of want to go back to that, but we only have a couple of more minutes. Gee, what a shame. I can't tell you anything right now.
I have another, this maybe is a spoiler, maybe not, but I have to ask Katey if you're going to direct again, since you are an experienced television director on this set.
Yes, well, it's been 22 years. I know the technology has changed a lot. So I'm going to do a bit more trailing with people. And when I get a chance, of just kind of watching how everything is set up and see how I can push the boundaries there a little bit. But I loved working with the actors, and that's what I'm most excited about. And that's the other thing that we love so much is the cast is wonderful. David Del Rio, came up at one point and said, can we talk about this next scene? And that developed into all of us getting together right after we finish blocking. And we have any questions about the scene coming up or how things knit together with each character. And we just get a much more specific view of what we're doing in the upcoming scene. There's just, if I can just finish here, as Jennie said, it's an ecosystem and it's transparent. I hate using that word, but I would say it's inclusive. Everybody feels included. Every person makes that episode, the show. As an actor, if we didn't have all of that, even the people who plug the electricity in, we'd be dancing around in an empty parking lot, just muttering to ourselves. We can't possibly make this without every single person. So to see the passion from everyone that's there on the set and how dedicated they are I just have never really, and you're not supposed to say this, my PR says, you can't say that. You've done all these other shows. You can't say this is your favorite, but I'm sorry, it's my favorite. That's what I have to say.
That does it for today's episode. This podcast is edited by Brett Fuchs and produced by Brett Fuchs and me. Our theme music and our guest was Dave Gonzales. Subscribe to the Prestige Junkie newsletter at theankler.com and subscribe to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We will see you next week.